Magic the Gathering.
Magic, 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 I'm so magic.
Gathering magic.
Spend a lot of money on cards.
Playing cool cards with my friends.
Playing all so magic.
We're all winners in the end.
Hello and welcome to Wild Dogs, a Magic the Gathering podcast. I'm your host, Leland, and thank you for stopping by and listening to us ramble on about all things magic. Today we are joined by a special guest, Kade, host of Recross the Paths, a podcast dedicated to exhibiting a wide variety of cubes and also the soundtrack to all my summer travels.
Well, Leland, thank you for that introduction. It's a treat to be here with you. It's always fun to get to talk about Cube in all contexts, and it's nice to, in a weird way, be on the other side of the microphone for a moment, though I'm still in front of a microphone.
Yeah, I was actually wondering that. I was like, I was expressing pre-show that I listened to pretty much every episode of Recross the Paths while driving all over the Midwest for a bunch of different like weddings and family travel and all that stuff. And I was curious how often you get to answer a lot of the questions that you ask.
People threaten to ask more questions than they do, and that's okay. My excitement in the program that I get to host is that I get to celebrate other people. So as long as I get to kind of take a back seat and let other people's ideas shine, I'm pretty happy. I also don't know that I'm always that interesting, so it's nice to feel like the pressure's on other people to say cool stuff.
I love it. Yeah, I guess for our listeners who may not know of Recross the Paths, what's kind of your quick little elevator pitch as to what your show's all about?
Yeah, Recross the Paths is a place where I like to have cube-shaped conversations with a different guest every week, just kind of exploring the space of building these custom environments within the magic sphere, and sometimes a little bit outside of that too. But it's an opportunity for people to share about what they're working on and how that impacts their experience with games and their experience with other people.
Yeah, I love it. I've, like I was expressing, I listen to every episode and I can't recommend it enough. If you're interested in Cube and just magic in general, it's my favorite show. I'll be honest.
Oh my
it's
goodness!
My current favorite Magic the Gathering show, and it's an honor to have you on Wild Dogs. So thanks for coming on.
Oh my goodness! Well, it's a treat to be here, Leland. And you're far too kind. It's really. I'm just glad I get to keep celebrating things that other people are doing, and how fun that we get to hang here just to spend some time with each other, chatting about some of what you're excited about too.
Yeah, absolutely. Typically, we start the show with talking about news and updates, including updates, just personal updates about what we've got going on. So, yeah, I guess outside of Magic, or it could be Magic related. What's new with you, Kade?
Let's see. Well, I just recently had a symphony audition that I did not win, but a lot of good experience putting the time in, preparing again. In addition to my day job, I also play in a couple of local symphonies, kind of a freelance musician thing, mostly a trumpet player. So just opportunities to refresh a lot of habits and patterns that I hadn't done in a while. Like, what's it like to actually get back into the woodshed and practice and prepare, even when that doesn't pan out? Like, still to improve at a craft and to feel like you're doing something worthwhile. So that's been what a lot of my recent weeks have been about. That, and now that audition is over, I finally had some free times in the evening, so I'm back to playing Expedition 33 again. So
let's go.
Almost done. No spoilers. Almost done.
No spoilers. Definitely let me know when you finish with it, because it's my personal game of the year. I think it's incredible.
It's already mine, and it's like not even close.
Not even close.
What's new for you, Leland? What's up?
Not a whole lot. I do quick want to say that's incredible that you're getting back into auditioning for symphonies. I myself played viola basically my whole life up through university, and I've often thought about maybe just like looking around the Milwaukee area for, I'm sure there are community orchestras and that type of thing, and I don't know. It's been a long time since I've picked up the old viola, so you might inspire me to look into that a little bit. How cool.
You'd have to redevelop your finger calluses, I think, for viola.
Absolutely. I do play guitar, though I haven't played guitar regularly in a while, but that's helped keep some of the calluses at least.
Yes.
My chin hickey's long gone. Uh,
Yeah, it's so funny because like as a trumpet player, I'm just on glorified plumbing. I don't think so much about the instrument itself, but here's your deep lore, a special treat for you, Leland. I
Right.
actually first started taking lessons on violin when I was 4 years old.
All
Uh,
right.
the teacher
All right.
expected me to be a prodigy for whatever reason, and was having me sit through other students' lessons as a 4-year-old,
Oh my
and
gosh.
that did not last. it was
Yeah,
it
it's
was
a wonder.
disastrous.
It's a wonder why you didn't stick with a stringed instrument.
Yeah,
That
really.
sounds all way to traumatize a kid.
No, I mean, somehow I still stuck in music, but
Mhm.
yeah, violin was, I tried it and just didn't take. So good on you for holding down the middle voice of the string section.
Right. Right. Um, yeah. In terms of like what I've got going on lately, honestly, it's just been Cube. Like just building, and obviously we'll get into this a little bit later, but expanding my Onhava in Tubert into a proper 360 card, full fledged 8-player support cube.
We'll define those terms here in just a second too.
Yeah. All that might not make much sense now, but we will get to it. So yeah, just a lot of my creative energy's gone into that. And like I was expressing earlier, just like lots of family travel, which has been great. But my wife and I are definitely looking forward to a hopefully more chill fall. Is kind of that's the goal here.
Here's hoping, my friend.
Yeah.
We could all use a little stability.
But yeah, now into our food for thought cast question, which it's kind of funny because Luke picked this question at the end of our last episode, not knowing that you would be on here with me today. And it's very akin to the question that you like to ask at the end of your show.
That is very
which,
true.
which is typically you like to ask your guest about if they could pick one card to have done by any artist, what would you pick? Right? Is that kind of the gist? Like a promo, if you could do a promo of any card, pick an
Yeah.
artist.
It's funny. This was actually before the podcast. This was one of my favorite road trip questions with other Magic
Mhm.
players. It's like, all right, we've got hours of windshield time, just kind of fill the space. And I found that in this context, it was just really fun to ask something that doesn't have any bearing on play, doesn't have any bearing on possibility. It's just like, what are you interested in? What do you enjoy? And it gives people a lot of platform to share all sorts, as you've hopefully heard, a platform to share all sorts of interesting and exciting things about themselves. So I've liked the question a lot.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the in your latest episode, your guest responded with like Junji Ito and how he
That's right.
remarked about how he did the secret lair, but also bringing him back. And I don't know, I just love hearing everyone's like either favorite artist or they talk about like a particular card that hasn't had new art in forever, and they just keep we need new art period for this particular card. So it's just interesting to hear everyone's take and their approach to that question.
What I found fun is that as it's gone, somehow I've made it over a year in this program. It's really been a blast, but how more and more people have just taken to breaking whatever rule they think exists. It's like, well, I know I can't do this, but I'm still going to do it. It's like, yeah, you can, the artist doesn't have to be alive or, like a magic artist or not a magic artist. It's like, you just pick whoever. And it's always like, well, I'm going to pick two. I'm going to pick, it's like, okay, sure.
Right.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's do it.
One of my very favorites was one particular guest who they said, I was trying to find this card for this artist. And then I found out they actually did an art of this card. And they
That's
discovered
awesome.
as they were preparing. It's really delightful.
That's fantastic. But yeah, in a similar vein, Luke chose our food for thought cast question, which is, who are some dream artists you want to see working on MTG cards? And it could be, Luke kind of pitched it as, it could be visual artists, authors, anything. So, Kade, who did you pick?
Oh, I definitely stuck in the visual art realm. I think so much of my experience with Magic is visual, and art is what drew me into the game in many ways early on, and a lot of what keeps me in the game with so much fascinating art coming out day to day. If I had to call it a realistic answer, would be an artist by the name of Aaron Nakahara. He has a number of things on internet, like ArtStation has a good repository of his gallery. If you're a fan of somebody like Dominic Mayer, who has these
Mhm.
like really interesting pastel types or like large block shapes, Aaron's got this really striking style that looks very painterly. Just lots of really sweeping shapes and colors. That's really cool. I would love to see, and I'm kind of surprised his art hasn't found its way onto a card
Mhm.
or two. But I think that would be a really neat one to see. The other two that I marked down are a little more of pipe dreamy, I suppose, because they are both long since deceased. I picked
Mhm.
Albert Bierstadt, and then in a similar vein, Thomas Moran. There was this school of artists in like the 17th century, 18th century, where folks were trying to capture, you know, quote unquote, the new land of America. We can dissect how fraught that idea is at another time, but the concept of trying to capture this huge majestic landscape and trying to take this big thing and share it with people who had no way of connecting with it like in other places. And Albert Bierstadt in particular has just these incredible landscapes, these takes of places like the Grand Canyon. I think he has one of Yellowstone National Park that's just unreal. The level of detail and the level of depth in these that I don't know if it would necessarily translate at I'm indicating with my hands the tiny card frame, but the scope
Mhm.
of his work is really just amazing. And then Thomas Moran, in a very similar vein, has a lot
Mhm.
with landscapes, but also with people and the like kind of the denizens of each space. He's really done a really striking job of this realism that I think would be really cool on a Magic card.
I love it. Actually, I kind of followed your lead with this question a little bit, Kate. I'll be honest. I saw your responses and I pretty much verbatim took those slots and picked an artist that it could potentially happen because they're still around, and then two artists that are just some of my favorite visual artists of all time. So my first artist was Tomokazu Komiya, which if you play Pokemon, he does these kind of these surrealistic pieces that make all the Pokemon look distressed and like he plays with the emotions, and like his style of art is very just like evocative of all these different like emotions that you wouldn't typically associate with Pokemon. And I've long
Yeah,
since
it's not
gotten out
quite
of
psychedelic, but like it's in that
yeah,
vein.
it's verging on psychedelic for sure. But I've long since gotten out of collecting Pokemon. That was once a thing. But I still have my all my Tomokazu Kamiya cards, and that will always be. I've got a binder, and that will always stay with me. So it's the one last little bit of collecting Pokemon that I care about, and I think yeah, his art style would be incredible for some like a Thought or like a Remand or just like some just weird. It could be anything really.
I'm here for it. That sounds so cool.
Yeah. My next artist was Peter Paul Rubens. I had the privilege of going to the Hermitage in St. Petersburg when I was actually in orchestra with my high school orchestra. And the one piece that has always stuck with me was Perseus and Andromeda. I don't know why, but that's the one where I stood and I it's a beautiful Baroque style piece of Perseus and Andromeda in the moment of Greek mythology, and Rubens just depicts it with such emotion, and it you look at his other work and it's very classically Baroque in style, but you don't really see that too often on Magic cards. So I just think it'd be really interesting to see some of his work, figuring out how that would be, how that would work with Magic.
I think maybe the closest we've gotten to this style was Jason Rainville did Storm the Seed Core
Yes,
in
that
Marching
was.
Machine.
Mhm. I remember seeing his posts on Twitter of how he composed or like the composition of the piece, and like how he started with the drawing, and that's an incredible piece for an okay Magic card.
I mean, the card is brutal and limited, but
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think Leland, there's something so interesting about that experience. You know, where people looked at that art and they're like, "Whoa, this is incredible! We've never seen anything like that." And it's like,
Mhm.
well, he's just doing an amazing job of modeling something that people have done
Mhm.
centuries prior. And that's not to say it's
Mhm.
derivative or copying anyway. It's just like this
Mhm.
is an amazing style of which there are so many amazing elements, like Peter Paul Rubens, that
Mhm.
there's more to see.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'd love to see more Baroque-esque pieces in Magic art for sure. And then my final artist is Nicholas Roerich. He's a Russian, I think symbolism was kind of his style of art. And this was my equivalent to your Thomas Moran in terms of landscapes. This is like, if I had to have someone do like a land's secret lair, we would just pull from Nicholas Roerich's art. I first was introduced to Roerich because we went on a trip to New York, and I unfortunately wasn't able to go to the Roerich Museum in New York. But that was one of the things I really wanted to do when we went to MoMA and we did that, and I was interested in other art museums, and Roerich popped up, and I was like, wow, it's literally just like an old mansion in New York just filled with all of Roerich's work.
That's so cool. It's like the best kind of museum.
Yeah, and it's very like the way he plays with color is very reminiscent of like Mark Poole, the original like Islands or something like that. Where it's just very like tiered, kind of sunsetty vibes. But they're all just gorgeous. Of like, oh yeah, the Himalayas in particular were the kind of one of his inspirations for sure.
I was gonna say, just glancing through some of his gallery here, I could see almost any one of these on like a snow-covered mountain from the 1990s. Like just
Right.
really awesome work.
Yeah. So those are my three, inspired by your three picks. Okay.
It's a team effort,
Right.
And it's so tricky nowadays because like the pool of Magic artists is so broad, and they're always drawing in all sorts of fresh new folks, especially with Secret Lair. That you're getting a lot of folks who wouldn't do a more traditional take. So, man, the sky is really the limit nowadays.
It really is. But yeah, on to WotC news. There's not a ton to report right now aside from Avatar spoilers. I don't know how into the weeds you are with those. I've been seeing a couple lessons here and there on Twitter. Aside from that, I haven't really dug into it too much. But have you seen anything of interest?
So, during the day, I help work at a collectible card game store. So part of my job is to keep up with that, just by necessity for the task. And I'm always keeping an eye out for my own cube projects. But usually I wait till full spoilers are up to do a lot of deep diving. What I tend to take away from this at present, thinking about upcoming sets, is that a lot of people are really excited. I know Universes Beyond are oft maligned by some enfranchised old head players. Here I am pointing to myself.
I am pointing to myself.
But I think, Leland, what I've seen is that the way I got into the game is necessarily different from how people are getting into the game now. And that can be okay. So like to watch people come in and go, you know what? I had heard about Magic. I wasn't really interested until they did this Lord of the Rings thing. Or, hey, Fallout was my favorite video game series, and I found out there was a commander deck for it. And like we have people walking to the store basically every week now going, hey, when's the Spider-Man thing coming out? Today I had a family come in and they were asking about the Spider-Man set, and the little kid, the child with it was like, hey, I want the Batman set. And we're like, yeah, dude, let's get a Batman set. Like if that gets you excited about it, that's totally fine.
Yeah. Luke and I have long argued about, and we don't have to get into the weeds of whether we are for or against Universes Beyond as a whole, but I think that's the biggest plus side to Universes Beyond, is drawing people into Magic, people who otherwise either didn't care or had heard about it and wasn't really their thing because it wasn't an inherently recognized IP. Like it's, of the game Magic, and you see some of the imagery, but I, as like a relatively newer player, I started actually in during the pandemic, like 2020-ish, 2019, 2020, and had gone my whole life of all that kind of, had known about Magic, had friends who had played Magic, but yeah, there wasn't something there necessarily drawing me in. So I can totally see why younger people who love Spider-Man, who love Avatar: The Last Airbender, have this new thing, if not just to collect a cool little piece of cardboard that has their favorite person on, their favorite character on it, as kind of like an entryway into the best game ever made. So that's the biggest pro to Universes Beyond. I'm not super thrilled about it being rotated into standard, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah. I mean, we're already kind of in the weeds a little bit, but like, yeah, I think it's kind of a necessary part of that process. I mean, if you print those sets and it's like, well, but this is only for the commander players. It's like, well, then, in this rotation, that would mean you wouldn't get any new standard cards until next January. At time of recording, that's like 6 months away. Yeah, 7 months or 4 months away.
I just know for this, this is what Luke and I talked about the last episode was with Spider-Man. There's literally going to be 40 different Spider-Man, and as
that's right.
that's fine. I got no hate for Spider-Man, but also I'm not going to sit down and play standard and try to figure out which Spider-Man is which. Like that's just being honest.
Well, and this is part of my advocacy for things like Cube as a way to play as well, because you can't like opt out of Universes Beyond for things like Commander or for things like Standard or other constructed formats. It's just you're going to be playing against cards like that because other people will use them. In an environment that you get to build, you can make some of those decisions as to what elements are valuable or important to you.
Yeah. And to be fair, like I don't have to, no one's forced me to play a Spider-Man limited, and it's more than likely that not every single Spider-Man will be standard playable. So it might just be a handful of Spider-Man cards mixed into limited. But it's when it's going to be Avatar, Spider-Man, and Final Fantasy, where it's like now half of your standard pool will be by necessity Universes Beyond cards. I mean, that's down the road, like a year or so down the road when full rotations go. I don't know. It's just interesting to see its impact and how it will go, and when the rotation hits in, was it 3 years that we hit the full rotation on a set? So we'll see.
I think so. 20. Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, I think back to when I started in 2013, I believe. So when you still only had 4 sets a year and maybe a supplemental product. But that was one of those, I was consuming every piece of media that came out, and I was trying to get every new card to try to build every new thing. And I keep thinking, it's got to be such an exciting time to follow that trend now. But as I've become a crotchety old man, it's easier for me to go, you know what, this is for other people to chase right now, and I'm going to be stuck with my formats that I can rotate on my own schedule, or something like old school that never rotates, like literally just 1993, 1994 cards, and explore stuff like that.
Yeah, my me and my play group, we actually picked up pre-modern within the last year.
Yes.
Just proxied up a handful of decks, Dead Guy Ale, Elves, Stifle Not, Oath of Druids deck. A lot of the classics, I guess you could say.
I can bring my red-white cycling deck if we ever find a chance to connect.
Let's go. I would love that. I'm I guess I would say I'm a Dead Guy Ale main is probably my favorite pre-modern deck. So
it's so good. Back when deck names were good.
Yeah, right.
When they were nonsense and reflected absolutely nothing about it's like a joke 6 layers deep that you have to know about.
Yeah, I think the backstory it literally is just like a beer that the person who first created Dead Guy Ale, he was just drinking that beer.
Yeah. Yeah, you had the stuff like, what was it? Nick Fit was another one.
Nick Fit,
of course, Cephalid Breakfast. You got just all these names of old decks that I love it. I love the nonsense jargon, as long as it's not exclusionary. Like that, it's the sort of thing that you can kind of laugh about the inness of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. In other WotC news, there was murmurings of potential judge program renewal. I think WotC posted a job position for, what was it, like a head?
It was I think it was for a program coordinator for the judge program, which has been famously defunct for a number of years.
Yeah.
There have been other organizations that have stepped in and I think have worked really hard to do a good job filling that gap. Mm-hmm. As a judge myself, I've attempted to follow that in as much as we're able. You mentioned here in this post-COVID season, the number of live events looks very different in how we engage with that.
Right.
I did have several friends message me and other judge friends about like, so are you applying to this? Are you moving to Seattle? It's like, slow down. Let's see what it's all about first. Let's wait for more information.
Hmm.
Also, moving with 3 kids, not the most easy thing to do.
Right. But yeah, that's interesting knowing that you're you are a judge and you've had experience witnessing, I guess, yeah, the kind of disbanding of WotC's program, and now as you were expressing these newer programs, because obviously we still need judges at events. I guess, what do you see kind of being the benefit of reinstating a WotC kind of run judge program versus these newer programs that have kind of come up since then?
That's a tricky question, Leland, and I want to measure my words carefully because
Sure.
one of the things I think I'm good at is getting along well with everybody. I like to, I don't think there's a particular value in picking sides. There,
Hmm.
since the judge program, uh, as I recall, functionally shuttered a number of years ago, we've had
Hmm.
at least 2 other major organizations that have stepped in for a year or more to try to fill that gap of providing resources for judges to be trained and providing support for people who are trying to get into the program and who are trying to help. One of my friends and mentors here in the area describes it kind of as a wild west as far as hosting events sometimes, because you're not officially required to have a judge right now if you want to run an RCQ or if you want to host a larger scale event. You don't have to have judges if you don't want to. And that gets a little spooky, and players will tell you that.
Hmm.
And I think your experience may show, I not hopefully in the sense that something bad happens, but hopefully judges are worth your time to bring to an event. So, they would contribute something to how the event is run and how players are comfortable with things happening. So I think if there's a value in Wizards of the Coast officially supporting that, I think it's in finding a healthy way to officialize the engagement of basically freelance contract workers in this space. You're trying to bring
Hmm.
people in who are volunteering is maybe a strong word here because you're hopefully getting compensated for your time, but who are devoting huge amounts of time, energy, and passion to taking care of other people, to take care of operational elements, to help promote events and build community. Like that's all stuff that I would think and I would hope is a good thing in the eyes of a large corporation. So I think that's the potential connecting thread is if you have the official support in a healthy way, I think that's maybe more beneficial than an independent organization that is, you know, at least not getting their hands swatted.
Yeah, it's just
These are
such
bold,
a
meandering takes that I don't
I
know
I
if they hold
yeah.
much water. These are my personal views and don't necessarily reflect the views or opinions of any extant judge program.
That's fair. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see kind of what comes of this, because yeah, I mean, I'm not super familiar with why it was disbanded, and but yeah, hopefully it's in the best interest of everyone involved to bring back this program and have it be centered through or sanctioned through Wizards again. So
We'll watch and see. I know
yeah,
the surface level is it'd be cool to have judge foils again. That's something that's
yeah,
been discontinued
right,
for a while.
right.
Yeah. I mean, I maybe it's slightly selfishly interested there, but I think there was something cool about
Mhm.
here's a unique game piece to showcase what you're doing or like to celebrate what you're doing. Um, yeah, I think that'd
Yeah,
be a cool part too.
yeah. I think I own one judge foil, and it's the most random judge foil of all time. I think it's for Isolated Watchtower. That's a singular judge foil that I own. I don't know why, but I have it.
I'm so sorry. One of the very most unfortunate judge promos. That's yeah. There are a couple head scratchers along the years. Not to look gift horses in mouths, but
Right, right.
yeah, there have been a couple. It's like, wow, really? That's shocking. But yeah, they're charming in their own way.
Yeah. Well, with that, you ready to talk some cube?
I'd love to talk cube. Let's talk some cube, Leon.
So, I think a good question to start with is, what is cube?
Yes. What is cube? Cue the science fiction music
Yeah.
behind us. The orchestra swells. I think the broadest definition that's going to encapsulate the most of what we're going to talk about is that it's a curated pool of cards that's primarily designed for limited play. That sounds like, even that just sounds like a lot of jargon in some ways. But the
Mhm.
idea is it's a collection of cards that you can draft or play sealed or just in some way play together in a repeated way. Often it's the
Mhm.
sort of thing that you would use as a replacement for retail draft or if you want to recreate a particular, limited or constructed environment. This is just a set of cards that's going to allow you to do that. So one of the most famous examples would be something like the Magic Online Vintage Cube is one that people know, or maybe in this era of Arena, there are Arena Cubes that's just a preset set of cards that's trying to capture a certain thing. I think just one of those valuable definition things is that it doesn't necessarily have to be any one of those elements. I think there's been gallons, oceans of ink spilled on trying to define what is and isn't a cube. And I think the most helpful thing, if you're considering, is this thing I have a cube? Yeah, probably. If it's something you want to get out and play with your friends, that could be a cube.
Yeah, I was first introduced to cube from a buddy who just texted me, "Hey, we're looking for an 8th player. You want to come cube with us?" And I was like, I don't know what that is, but sure, absolutely. Why not? And he has his own, it's like a variation of the Mitgo cube, and with just some like pet cards and classic other vintage staples that have been since rotated out. I know Mitgo, the MTG Online cube likes to stay as up to date as possible, and they test a lot of cards with every single set that comes out, which is cool. But it's also interesting to like play my buddy's cube, which has a lot of modern or new staples that are fantastic in cube, but also retaining kind of like his own design interests and the integrity of like what he sees as being the optimal vintage, quote unquote, powered vintage cube experience. So that's kind of what initially drew me in. Was he sent me his list on Cube Cobra. I had no idea what Cube Cobra was, which is probably, well, now there was another one before, which I forget the name of it, but now it's kind of
Cube Tutor was before.
Cube Tutor.
Long live Cube Tutor.
Yep, R.I.P. Cube Tutor. But Cube Cobra is essentially just like the Moxfield, but for cubes. And it's not exactly the best way of putting it, because there's so much more to Cube Cobra than that. But for those who aren't familiar with Cube Cobra, it's a way of kind of like archiving your cube. It's a place to help design your cube. It's also a place to like look into other people's cubes, articles, Recross the Paths, blog posts about cube, linking to the podcast episode. But it's just I would argue it's the best resource for people who are interested in starting a cube of their own and just looking at other people's cubes to see what cube even is.
Yeah, there's something amazing about the Magic space, how many people who are in the game are so creatively minded and have these aptitudes to build tools and resources that often start for themselves and then are geared toward others over time. So shout out to Gwen and to Ryan, who put a lot of work over the years into this program. Cube Cobra is, as you noted, it's a great place for hosting cube lists, but beyond that, it provides things like analysis and test drafts and, like you said, blog pages, so you can keep logs of your updates and changes over time. You can compare lists. It has a recommender built in for like other resources that you can add to it. All that to say, Cube Cobra is a great resource for building, adjusting, analyzing, basically anything you want to do digitally with a cube. You can likely do it there, and it's being developed and maintained all the time. Gwen is a rock star.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Me with kind of a background in Moxfield for building Commander specifically, but other constructed decks as well. It's hard to, because I have my list on both Moxfield and Cube Cobra for the advantages and disadvantages of each. I enjoy using Moxfield for kind of digging through Scryfall and comparing. I actually often compare lists to other cubes, Moxfield to Moxfield in that regard. But Cube Cobra is just it's the best. I don't know how else to put it, but when you finally export your list or you get it all into Cube Cobra, you can finally start cooking. Is I guess is the best way of putting it. It's like this now that's what I did today actually with my Anhava Inn. Now that it's at 360.
Yes.
This was my big grand opening of the Cube Cobra for the 360 cube. So Yeah, it's
Well, yeah,
it's just a lot of fun, and it helps you organize all your crazy thoughts when designing a cube.
if you've ever used a spreadsheet before to try to,
Yeah.
to put ideas together, it's just such a game
Hmm.
changer when you're able to
Hmm.
add cards in and choose printings. And when it's done, you can go to a page that tells you all the tokens that your cube needs, or you can, see a
Hmm.
grid of your average distribution of mana values. And it's just the sorts of things that you would otherwise have to do so much by hand is just built in. It's great.
Yeah. I was doing the as fans for all the different things in just like a Google spreadsheet, and then I I realized I was like, oh, that it's literally integrated into Cube Cobra. It was just
That's
such a
right.
game changer. I was literally just going like with a calculator and running all my as fans that way. And it was just, which was fun. I mean, doing that and like doing the math is actually really, I think, valuable to do it the old school way.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's so nice that it's all integrated right into Cube Cobra like that.
Wild Dogs is not sponsored by Cube Cobra, but if you get a wild hair, I know Cube Cobra does have a Patreon page, and that's something that if you're interested in supporting that program, they do so much good stuff for the Cube community. Figured I'd
Subtle
mention that.
plug to, yeah, friends of Wild Dogs. We'll call them Cube
For
Cobra.
sure. Well, and you mentioned, I think, Leland, maybe a good nod here. You suggested 360. Often you'll hear people refer to 360 as the kind of a default number of cards in the cube.
Mm,
The reason for that is historically packs of limited draft are 15 cards, and for
yep.
8 people to have 3 packs of 15 cards, well, that turns out to be 360 cards. So that's
Mhm.
kind of where your default number comes from. Beyond 360, you're going to also see 540 pretty commonly,
Mhm.
and that's going to get you up to 12 players, or what most people use that for is for 8 players still, but so that you don't see the whole cube every time. With
Yep.
360, you have this value for like combo-oriented decks that you want to make sure that those 2 pieces or those 3 pieces are going to be in the draft. For as you expand, you can have a lot more different elements in the cube, and it's not going to look identical draft to draft. It's not just
Mhm.
all right, who got this card. It's going to be a
Mhm.
little more broad than that. And I guess while we're on that thread, acknowledging that it can go the other way too. Some of
Yep.
my favorite ways to play recently have been in this little format called Five Alive. And those are little cubes between like 30 and 45 cards that you play with a
Mm.
shared deck and a shared graveyard. And so your draft is your opening hand rather than a deck. It's like you can go way, way small form. You can do what they call a tubert, which you mentioned earlier, which
Mhm.
is usually in the realm of 180 cards for 2 players to draft. Or you can ignore spreadsheet aesthetics and just pick whatever number makes you
Yeah.
happy and build any size.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like I've dug through at this point probably hundreds of different cubes on Cube Cobra, and yeah, you'll see like the 412 cards, or like, yeah, a number that wouldn't even make sense, like a 230 or something. Like just like I don't know, I guess a tuber with a little variability added into the mix. But yeah, a lot. I think I started by like following a very firm outline and blueprint, actually from Ryan Overturf, his Tubert, original Tubert, and it's a fantastic model to start out with. At 180 cards, it's to support typically 2 or 4 player drafts, and I typically in my play groups, my multiple play groups, we typically meet in groups of 4. So I was like, oh, that would be perfect for us. However, like you mentioned, it definitely like narrows. That was a really fun project in building this, kind of graveyards matter bar cube inspired tubert. But it also just kind of like it narrows the scope so severely that it doesn't allow for a ton of creativity, and also hyper limits the decks that are involved in the format. So that's another reason maybe to expand from a smaller cube to a larger one. But like you said, you can also enjoy a smaller format and enjoy it literally just as decks. I know that's one of
Yeah.
Ryan's design intentions was like, hey, each color you can just play as like a constructed deck effectively. And I just thought that was really, really fascinating approach to building a cube in that manner.
Yeah, it's so difficult to like capture all these elements in one quick thought.
Yeah.
But one
Right.
thing I think is worth defining there
Mm,
that you mentioned was a bar cube. And this is
mm,
something that's come about in recent years, this idea of a cube that is often played with no tokens, no counters, and in some cases without sleeves. Like the thought that you could bring it to a bar or to a picnic or to be played at a school or outside, that it then becomes portable. And in some cases, it's trying to show that you don't have to be linked to the high value of any of these cards. Like you're just going to shuffle them up, play with them as game pieces, and move on. So that's like one sensibility that people take. Or you can go completely the other end. And that's important to note, that you can either go toward this high accessibility, portability, or you can go toward. I remember sitting down to draft a friend's powered vintage cube, in which of course I think he has beta power in most of that one, and so sitting down to the opening speech of, "Hey, I'm so glad you all are here. Just so we're clear, if you are responsible for the damage or loss of any of these cards, you're responsible for that. Is everyone okay with that? And I need a verbal agreement." And it's like, yeah, absolutely. I'm here for it. This is awesome. But like, I'm just seeing that there are so many different ways to engage with that.
Yeah, that's part of what has drawn me to Cube. Is it does, your design sensibilities it runs the whole gambit of hyper casual bar cube, where it's literally like maybe $16 worth of cards, fully unsleeved, Sharpie errata all over them, the beer spilled, they're half of them are damaged from like water, to the Brandon Sanderson cube, which is just like millions of dollars, like $1 million cube. So there's just such a broad spectrum that it allows for you to kind of carve your own little creative niche into the cube stratosphere, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, and I think that's such a value of it, is that the variety of it allows you to find something that you're excited about. I think this kind of echoes some of what Mark Rosewaters described as one of Magic's greatest strengths and its greatest weakness, is that there's so much diversity to be found in the game itself. When you sit down with somebody at your local game store, it's like, "Hey, Leland, what decks do you have with you?" "Oh, you've got pre-modern." "Ah, I've only got modern with me." "Oh, I've got a commander deck." "Well, wait, what power level is your commander deck?" I don't know if those, it's like you can do so many different things, but then finding how do we line up? And then something like Cube, there are so many different ways to do it. But the problem that solves is that, "Hey, Leland, do you want to play a game? I've got it all packaged right here. And the rules are basically safe within this box. Whatever I've put in the box is fair to use." And you don't have to worry about, well, to some degree, you don't have to worry about power level or like offending somebody by playing too high or too low. It's like, here's the bounds of this experience that you get to have.
And I think that brings about a good point of, when you sit down with your friend, considering, and you don't have to, but like, I think for me, I hyper considered my play group, my multiple play groups, like who I would probably play this cube with, their experience level, and also just what they're drawn to. I play with my dad and brothers a lot, and we play all the time. We play a lot of casual Commander, and that's their kind of experience with Magic the Gathering. So I wanted to build a cube that was accessible to more casually oriented players who maybe don't draft a ton, to have, I guess an aesthetic preference for this cube, for legibility's sake, is all M15 frame, all black border, all reminder text. They can be foil, but they have to be M15 frame, they have to be black border, they have to look like Magic the Gathering cards. And that's just for, having less experience with this game, sitting down with like a fully secret layered cube where half the cards are illegible or signed or whatever. And like, I want to be able to show off some of the more collector pieces in my collection, but also, this signed Cruxa, like, what does this card do, Kade?
Oh, gorgeous. That's so good. Well,
It's
I'm the wrong person to ask. I know what Cruxa does.
But if I showed this to like my dad, he would be like, "Why is there marker all over this card?"
This is important marker. I need you to understand that.
It's a very important marker. So it's, I don't know. Like, I think building, obviously for yourself is huge. Like, build something that you're going to love and want to spend time building, but also who are you going to play this cube with? Who's going to draft this cube is a big part of creating an environment that you'll actually enjoy with the people you play Magic with.
Yeah, and I want to highlight that or underline it or etch it into stone if I can, that your play group and really what you're most interested in is the most important consideration.
Mhm.
In very rare instances, you'll be building something for a much larger audience. Maybe you're trying to take it to one of the large cube-based conventions or
Mhm.
some event that's going to be sharing more than one cube. And maybe there are some broad considerations to make there. But so often, I mean, what you just described is so critical. Who's going to play this with me? Is it my friends
Mhm.
at the local game store? Is it my family? Is it just my best friend down the street who, we're just going to jam games? Well, that's going to impact what kind of thing you want to design. Or maybe I just want to build a 360 cube because that's interesting to me, or I feel like that's kind of
Mhm.
a, an ideal way to start. Great. You can do that too. Just having in mind though, like you said, what do I want to be doing with this? Where do I want this to go?
Mhm.
And yeah, there are endless possibilities.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a good segue into this question of like why play cube. You're just touching on the question of spending time, or the idea of spending time with your play group and who you're going to be playing this cube with. And you outlined this in the show notes of 3 questions, which I think are like the big 3 questions of why cube. So maybe we'll just tackle them one question at a time.
Well, sure. Yeah. How about I'll give all three and then we can unpack them there.
Yeah,
The
sounds
three,
good.
just like because I was just jotting down notes, thinking through, maybe how to share that. And I'm saying a lot of this with the assumption that maybe your listeners, maybe they've never heard of Cube, or maybe this is a first
Right.
exposure, or kind of like we were talking about with Magic, like you've heard of this before, but maybe you've never explored it deeply.
Mhm.
So the 3 questions I was asking was, one, do you enjoy spending time with your friends? Which sounds like an easy throwaway question. The second one was, do you enjoy drafting or limited play? And then finally,
Mhm.
do you not want to spend money every time you draft? So I guess starting at the beginning, there's a lot of fun in designing cubes that's very personal, that's very like you living with Scryfall and a spreadsheet or Cube Cobra or whatever your preferred tool is. That's
Right.
I can see you smiling, Leland, like that. Where it's
Yeah.
like this is
That's
fun to solve puzzles and to put things together and imagine outcomes. But where the rubber meets the road is getting to sit down with people you enjoy spending time with. And then Cube, as much as it's a
Mhm.
game experience, becomes a vehicle to engage with other people um, in whatever environment you find yourself in.
Yeah, I mean that's the, like we've been expressing, the biggest draw for me is, well, the example I pointed to is that you're able to like physically pass packs between, you all are touching these cards and you're all like kind of, you're chatting, you're talking about how the draft is going. It's kind of sitting in a circle too, so you're like, it's just like you're all before sitting down, because I know for constructed formats, like when me and my buddies sit down to play Legacy, you're focused on, like, yeah, there's some like casual conversation, you're just hanging out, but you're also just focused on like winning.
Right? Yeah,
Like
you got to stick it to them.
like let's be honest here. I'm sitting and I'm playing lands, Legacy, Selesnya lands, and
Woo! All
I don't
right.
care. I don't care about like, how your day went. I'm just trying to like dark depths right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, like that's
Gotta
the
get a
fun part.
Marilage up here.
Yeah, that's the fun part of Legacy and a lot of constructed formats is winning the game of Magic. I think those are the best representation of like, and that can also be true for Cube as well. Like competitive Cube is a real thing, but I think sitting down and you can't play Legacy casually. I don't really think. Cube, you can totally just chill and casually draft. Even like a higher power MTGO vintage cube, you can bring that to a table, sit down, have a beer, and like hang out.
Yeah, I know it's kind of impossible to speak in just absolutes on that too, because certainly you can have social experiences in any sort of competitive format or like constructed head-to-head things. But I think there's a value of having experiences like what Cube often offers, where the record matters less. The outcome of games is less
Mhm.
important than the experience of what you're getting to do. You think about in an 8-person pod, if you're playing together, one person, if nobody goes to time, if there's no draws, one person's going to
Mhm.
end up with a 3-0. Two people are going to, three people are going to end up at 2-1.
Mhm.
Three more people are going to end up at 1-2, and you're going to have an 0-3.
Mhm.
That's just statistically how the evening's going to go, or the
Mhm.
morning if you're a responsible adult that's having a brunch cube, and if so, please invite me because that sounds awesome.
It does.
But But looking at your potential outcomes there, like not everybody can win a cube night,
Mm-hmm.
and that has to be okay. And I think there are many ways to like try to build that in a way that the experience then matters more than the outcome. Do
Yeah.
players have a good time doing the thing? And that's learned by
Mhm.
experience. Like you kind of discover what do your players enjoy. If you're part of a group of, shall we say, sweatier predilections, sure. Well, then you can gear your environment to be
Mhm.
more competitive, and
Yeah.
in so doing, encourage the way that people want to play there. But yeah, it's so much about the social experience of what it's like to, like you said, sit down at the table, pass packs, probably break bread, like that you're sharing that moment.
Mhm. On to, do you enjoy drafting? The second question. Yeah, you this is a very big one. And I wish Luke were here to say his 2 cents, because Luke does not like drafting at all.
Intercut Luke's thoughts
Yeah,
right here. Well, those like
yeah, yeah.
cut in.
Coming to you live from Luke's house.
Okay, yeah.
I'm asking Luke the question from our friend Kade at Recross the Paths.
Okay.
Luke, do you like drafting, and why or why not?
So I got to grab the little mic here. Do I like drafting? Why or why not? I would say, traditionally speaking, I've not been the biggest draft fan, in that I just always feel like I'm missing out on something. Like every time I play draft decks against my friends, they always have really well synergized 40 card decks somehow, and I'm just kind of floundering. So I've never been really a big fan of it. But I just played Leland's cube and I had a lot of fun. It synergized really well, and it was kind of it was a little bit idiot proof, I think. Like I said, when I was like going through the cards, I was like, wow, all these 2 drops are really good. They all work together. I'm like, man, who would have thought? So traditionally I would say no. I just think that I always feel like I'm kind of missing out, or like not in on it. Um, but I think that that also shows that, like, Leland's cube is pretty well designed, in that I was able to flounder and kind of mess around, and my deck still worked. So I'd say, okay, long story short, I think it's grown on me.
Thanks, Luke, for your insights there. It's probably going to be
This-
him, just like a lot of profanities.
Oh no, I'm crying right now, and you can determine later if it's because of how beautiful or how heartbreaking it was.
Yeah, same. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. Some people just don't like limited, and like, I think, yeah, accepting that some people in your playgroup might not be drawn to cube, and if you also don't like draft, then maybe building a cube of your own isn't for you. However, I would recommend at least trying to, if your buddy's got a cube, me, if I have a cube and I come to you with my cube, just give it a go. Just give it a shot. Drafting, I think limited is, I don't want to say it's like the hardest way of approaching Magic, but if you're a newer player, building like a functioning draft deck and like understanding everything that goes into a limited environment is extremely complex. You're not just sitting down with your commander precon, or your the standard precons or whatever that they used to make. I haven't seen like a challenger deck. You're not sitting down with your challenger
Yeah.
deck that you picked up for $20 at the LGS. I think it to me and you, obviously we love limited. That's why we're here today talking about it. But I understand why it can be a struggle to get into it, because it's complex. And if you draft a deck that you think is cool and then you go 3, like you were saying, someone has to go 3. It can be frustrating. I can understand that it can be a frustrating experience. So
Yeah, limited definitely asks different questions of you as a player, like as somebody who's
Mhm.
experiencing the game. If you're coming from a constructed environment, there's the comfort and the pacing of I get to build the ideas I want at a speed that's comfortable to me or that's interesting to me. This one, you're given pieces on the fly and you have to put together something that may or may not exist in that environment. You have to determine what's actually in front of me, what's available, what can I do, what can't I do, what should I do, what do I want to do. So there are a lot of inherent challenges, even just mechanically. If you've never drafted before, here are 15 cards you may or may not have seen before. you have 30 seconds before your friends start making fun of you for not picking. It's like,
Yeah.
ah! So I think there's this thing about it can be a good way to bring people into limited, especially if your play group is good at being welcoming, is good at being patient, is good at coaching people along. In fact, one of my very favorite things that I want to make sure to mention is if you have a group of 6, is about the best way for this, is that you do a 3v3 team draft. So you have your 6 people around the table, draft as normal, and then you swap your center seats, and then opposite ends of the table are teams. So then you get to make your deck building decisions together. You get to talk through how you want to do things that way. And then one side rotates one player at a time so that each of your 3 team members get to play each of the 3 members on the other team. And that's a great way to engage people who don't play as much. It can put some of your experienced players with less experienced players as just a way to help highlight how the game works and give advice in a way that's not like, let me single out the new player to help them, but it's like you're working
Right.
together to do that. So team draft is great, and you should definitely do that.
You could take your cube and do like sealed, where you just open packs and then you just lay them all out, and then have newer players create a deck, help them through it, and then do 2-headed giant.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it was for Lord of the Rings, actually. One of my brothers, he doesn't play Magic at all, and so we went to the 2-headed giant, and that was a way of making it accessible to him and I pairing up as a team, and him kind of getting to see why me and my other brothers enjoy Magic. So yeah,
That's so good.
I've never tried a 6-player team draft like that. That's a really smart way of doing it for a new player. 100%.
Well, I think as you and I and perhaps anyone that's played Limited has experienced, it just takes time, and it takes some measure of repetition to feel more comfortable with it. And so some people have taken to try to mitigate that with the environment. So higher variance cubes, think like in your vintage cube space where you have some high octane plays that are going to be swingy and that don't necessarily require a certain player background to win. And I don't mean that in any pejorative way. It's like if you're able to play an Ancient Tomb, Mox Ruby, Goblin Rabble Master, that's going to beat a lot of people regardless of the deck they've constructed. It's like some people try to build variants in to allow for people to win regardless of their skill level. But yeah, just bringing people into, if they've never drafted before, just to be patient and find ways to encourage them. And if it's not for them, don't feel like you have to chase them out to the car to bring them back. Like, just be encouraging, and if people are into it, they'll come back.
Yep.
I've had a good friend here recently who I don't want to say we converted because he still certainly very much plays Commander, but it was one of those that he tried drafting a cube of mine in the blind. He had never drafted before, much less a cube. And then the experience of it, he didn't know that he could not play some of the cards in his pool. He got to the end of the first pack. It's like, man, I don't really want to play some of these. And we're like, yeah, you don't have to. And it was just this amazing experience of like, oh, well, then I would have picked, it's like,
yeah.
And he has since come back to several events since then and has been talking about like, man, I'm really trying to get better at this and I want to do more of this. And so then celebrating, not looking at the record as like, this is the thing that's most exciting or important, but like, what was the thing you loved doing? What was your favorite card in your deck? What was something you've never experienced before on board? And like those memories and those experiences are what keep people coming back more so than like, hey, I 3-0'd this. Like I spiked this draft and now I've won.
Right. I love that. And I think, it might have been the most recent episode of Recross the Paths, but one of your guests was talking about how initially they only had a few people, and just through setting up a weekly event, we're able to grow it and grow it and grow it. And then now there's like a queue. Week. Like you start with just like a few people, and maybe your cube doesn't fire that week or whatever happens, but being consistent, I think too, just like setting a time, be like, hey, each Wednesday night, if you can show up, I'll have the cube here. And maybe that also helps people who might have their reservations about drafting or feel nervous or feel like this pressure to, perform at a draft event, make it a bit more casual. Just like, oh yeah, it's this weekly thing where we just go hang out and play cube. So yeah,
that consistency is worth so much, even for non-cube things. But I remember one of my guests very early on, Dan and Mike, they would both say that the first plan is like, you're just going to show up every week or, however consistently you want to set that up. We will be there, and maybe it's just one or two people, but there will be a game. No matter what, people are going to play. We're going to have a good time. And if more people come in, that's awesome. If it just ends up being you and a friend, having a drink and a snack and playing games, that's great too. And that has to also be okay, right? Like, we can't all have the Baltimore crews.
Right.
I think they're firing 3 pods a week on average, which is like, that's so amazing. Or Madison has like multiple cube nights in the week. It's like, that's okay. Those are lofty aspirations,
right?
But just start with you and a friend having a good time, and people will find that fun is contagious. You know what's not fun though, Leland? Spending money.
Yeah, hate it. Absolutely hate it. And yet,
what if I
have to do it every set. I have to buy packs to play Magic. It turns out.
What if I told you that there was a way that you didn't have to pay money?
Tell me more.
I think that, I know for many that's like this really cool draw to something like Cube. And yes, if you are curating the Cube, you're stuck. You do get to like continue to build, and there's discussion for proxies or however you want to handle that. But like really, if one person has the Cube, unless there's like a cover charge for a space or something, or if somebody's hosting at a house, man, the fact that you can just say, hey, do you want to play a game? What do I need? Nothing. Come on. If you have a favorite playmat or lucky dice, grab them. But otherwise, like, we're ready for you. Come sit down. That can't be overstated. Like, if there's no cost to somebody to participate, it's huge.
Yeah, I remember I was first getting into Magic. The thing that interested me most was Singleton. I couldn't get behind, for whatever reason, I just like couldn't get into like other constructed formats, and not like there's so many cards in this new game for me. I want to be able to build a deck that I play a bunch of different stuff every single game. So then naturally I was drawn into Commander and built a ton of, just in Moxfield, I've got a bunch of Commander decks now. And the pressure when you start a Commander project and realizing that there's a dollar amount, there has to be some sort of dollar restriction to this new play experience. Each time you want a new Commander deck, a new constructed experience, it can be a little bit stressful. So then going into Cube and knowing that, like, well, yes, you can spend a lot of money to build a cube, or you can go the opposite route and just build out of your collection. That's a totally fine way of starting a cube. Little to no money invested. And then boom, now you've got something that you can repeatedly play, and also have different gameplay experiences and different gameplay patterns every single time, because you're drafting a new deck each time.
Yeah.
That is kind of like my big eureka moment for creativity in Magic, transitioning from building Commander decks into building cubes, at least. It's just, you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars every time you want to do something new with Magic. You can just tweak your cube a little bit.
No, it's true. Well, it's true. And if a lot of people, a badge of folks that are listening to us here, are folks that are enfranchised in the game in some way, or are engaged somewhere in the space. It's like, you may already have decks that you don't get to play much anymore. Maybe you have cards that you've collected. It's like, man, I don't know if I have a home for insert your favorite pet card. Well, you might now. You may find that if I just shuffle a few of my Commander decks that I'm not playing right now together, that you can make an environment that is draftable. It may be wonky. Right. You may find some of the rough edges first that you want to change, but like, you'll learn so much just by putting a stack of cards on the table and saying, let's play some Magic, and you will discover a lot very quickly.
Yeah, I love that note when I saw that you said just throw a couple Commander decks together. It's so true. Like, I've got dozens of Commander decks that I'm now going through the list, not so much to like reinvigorate them or bring new life to them, but it's what cards are in here that I can now pull from my cube.
Yeah. And again, you may find that the average commander deck isn't constructed with quite as much of what we'd call colloquially glue. Your
Hmm.
faithless lootings, your preordains, your Lane of War, like some of the core things that make a draft feel functional, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
But you'll learn that really quickly. You'll go, hey, I've got a lot of expensive spells. Maybe I need things to accelerate. Or, maybe I want to see some more stuff happen on around this turn. And you can make those adjustments. But I know we've talked a lot about kind of the philosophy of why. Maybe this would be a good spot to chat a little bit about some quick first tips if somebody's thinking, well, maybe I want to try it, but it sounds big and spooky and overwhelming. Is this a fair place to
Y-
start?
Absolutely. Yeah, I know for me, after experiencing my first vintage cube draft, I immediately was inspired to start creating my own. And the first one I ever made was it was bad, first of all, but that's okay. Like just I guess my first tip for constructing your first cube is find I don't know, find maybe a few gold cards that you like the vibe of how they play, or even they don't have to be gold cards, but you, and that's another whole other thing talking about archetypes and if you really need to lean into gold cards for archetypes and all that stuff. But yeah, I guess my first tip is just like find cards you want to play, cards that you've seen in either constructed environments or in draft environments. Like let's say you really enjoyed your Tarkir Dragonstorm pre-release event and you came across this card, Rakshasa's Bargain. You're like, this card rules. I'm going to build a Sultai Graveyard Matter cube, and that's just what I'm going to do because this card is so cool. That's awesome. Like, just find cards that inspire you to want to play limited.
Yeah. Because if you're genuinely excited about something, that tends to be contagious, and people want to
Yeah.
join you in it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's if you come in a trepidatious way of like, so I've put this thing together. I don't know. I kind of, it's like, man, just come in like, hey, I've been really excited putting this together. I love a lot of the cards in here. Do you want to try it? Let's learn together. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I like to highlight here is that Cube is open source. The things that people have built, the things that other people are working on are often freely available. Like the Magic Online Vintage Cube list is actively available if you want to go look it up, if that's your speed. Cube Cobra is an amazing resource for finding projects that other people have worked on.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole bunch of social media outlets where people will post pack one, pick ones, and what do you think about this swap and different theoretical ideas and practical ideas. There's so many great places to find ideas on how to approach it. And often, if you have an idea that's exciting to you, somebody else may have explored in a similar vein that's worth borrowing from. And as opposed to in many other spaces, I've found on average in the cube space are flattered if you reach out and you're like,
Right.
hey, I love what you've done, Leland, with your Sultai based graveyard cube. Tell me more about it. Are there pitfalls I should avoid? Or I guess in that case, are there pitfalls I should include?
Right.
Like connecting with the community is a big way of just learning what there is out there and then what you can add to your own bag of tricks.
And I think to kind of go along with that is don't sweat all the details of it either. Like don't feel like you need to take the Magic Online Vintage Cube list and then have to make it your own. Or if you do find someone has this Sultai Graveyards Matter cube, don't feel like you need to fully flip the script on it and make it Mardu, or like if you find something that you like and there are lists out there for that, yeah, just use it as a baseline, make a couple swaps here and there as you see fit, and then test it. Play it with your friends, and don't maybe it goes poorly, maybe everyone's deck is not great, but use that as like a learning experience. I've found that in the first several drafts of the Anhava Inn, there's been a lot of good and bad, and it immediately inspires you to go back to the drawing board to make those changes, and that's all part of what makes it so fun. Is like literally putting your ideas and your creativity to the test through gameplay. It's like the most rewarding, one of the more rewarding parts of curating a cube.
How enlightening was that first test draft for you after you theory crafted the Anhava?
it was very nerve wracking, but just extremely fun. And obviously, going back to the idea of like it's with your friends, it's all about the social element and like actually sitting down to physically draft these cards that you've been obsessing over for for months. And yeah, you learn a lot from draft to draft. Like I drafted it with my dad and brothers for the first time relatively recently, and I was convinced in its two-bert format that there's no way you could draft a monocolored deck. And sure enough, I drafted mono red. I was like, and it's totally dependent on who the players that engage with the cube, and I think that's so fascinating. And there are so many play patterns that I hadn't even considered, combos that one that's coming to mind is I had a Thalia on board, and my opponent had Kona, which is the new one from Duskmourn, where if it's tapped, you get to put something directly into play. And because I had Thalia on board, it entered tapped. I was like, oh, I didn't even I had both these cards in this cube, and I didn't even think that could happen. And sure enough, yeah, he gets something for free, like another big creature for free because of that interaction. So just like small weird things like that will happen that maybe you didn't intend to be there. And yeah, seeing your cube in action, you learn so much from it.
Yeah, buckle up for weird interactions. It's really delightful
Yeah,
when you start mixing sets.
It's so much fun.
I will note also, since we were mentioning it that way, starting with a set or a block is a really comfy way to build out a group of cards that you're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
That helps reduce the scale of what you're after. I found another fun idea generation project. Boy, that makes me sound like a school teacher, doesn't it? Here's another fun idea for how to. No, I think another helpful way to approach that was somebody tasked us with creating a two-bert, so a 180 card list from the first year that you played the game. So you can only use cards that you experienced in that first year, and you can interpret that how you want. But so for me, that was building around with Theros and a couple Return to Ravnica cards. You have this was
awesome.
how I experienced Magic to start, and just seeing what does this list look like? Did I end up building it? No, not yet, maybe. But putting together a list of let's just try it. Let's see if I enjoy this process. Or, I have a friend at work who is building a Bloomborough cube because they loved the limited environment. And so they just want to draft more of Bloomborough. It's like, sweet, cut out the stuff you don't like, add more of the stuff you do like. And people may have a bunch of draft commons and uncommons that they'll just give you, right? There are ways to build out of that too. And then starting at the right scale, I think is so helpful too. You don't have to build a 540 convention-ready cube. Start with something that your group can draft. If you need to reduce the pack size a little bit, packs of 12 can often end up with, with enough cards to draft, or reduce the deck size. You can shrink things down to something that's more manageable. And my general advice is don't get stressed either. I know how is that for advice? But but if you're not having fun, don't feel like you have to push it. In general, it's something that's for you. So find a pace that is enjoyable and a scale that's enjoyable to pursue.
Yeah, it's actually extremely good advice, though. It's simple but so good, because I've spent so much time sweating the details regarding ASVANs and just general percentages for fixing and do I have enough disenchant effects in this cube that features a lot of enchantments and artifacts. Is it too much? Is it too little? And you start to you start to spiral. You can definitely start to spiral when building a cube. And
did your relatives ask you about ASVANs when they sat down?
That's a great point. You're going to sit down and play this thing, and a lot of things that you spent hours stressing out about do not matter even, or they aren't even crossing the minds of the players who are actually looking at these cards.
There's this beautiful universal experience, I think, of cube designers where you agonize over, okay, well, if I put this card and this card in, then this thing's going to happen, and nobody will have any fun, or everybody will have so much fun. And then you walk up and it's like, hey, how'd you feel about this card? And they're like, oh, it's in my sideboard. It was off color. Yeah. I never played it. And it's it's just what?
that heritage reclamation that you spent a whole evening thinking about. Yeah, that card's, why is this in here? I would never play that card.
and then somebody else at the table is like, oh man, if I had that, I would have.
Yeah.
It's like you never know. You never know. But yeah, I think there's just this huge value, like you're describing. Get it to the table, as quickly as you can. Get it to that prototyping stage of, let's just find out what happens. Do we even enjoy this? Do I want to go find more cards? Do I need to switch to something else? And I think it's a good thing to get feedback if your friends are willing to offer their thoughts as you're going. I think that's a really valuable thing. Feedback is always a gift. I have a friend that would say every piece of feedback is a gift that somebody's taking the time to give you.
It really is. And that's like one of my favorite moments after a draft when everyone's helping separate all the basics out is just asking the table like, hey, was this fun? What did you like about your deck? And more importantly, what did you not like? What cards did you see? What cards did you play against? What cards did you play that didn't really do anything? Yeah, don't be afraid of criticism. That's definitely a huge one because yeah, change can be hard, but it also allows for the evolution of your format. Yeah, I don't know. They also might have fun, cool new cards that synergize really well with what you're trying to accomplish. Like, hey, did you consider this? Like, I played with, like in that instance of like Thalia, comboing with Kona. Unfortunately, it's like, oh well, here's maybe a way of turning the tide in a way where, that you can take advantage of that situation. Those types of situations where it's like, oh, this play pattern popped up that I wasn't anticipating. How do I maneuver through that? Because it did happen. Things will happen and not exactly the way that you might intend. And that's just use that as an inspiration for the evolution of the format.
Yeah, and you can't anticipate everything. So embrace the unexpected and be prepared for be prepared for whatever comes.
Mm-hmm. That kind of covers the construction of your first cube. Are there any other kind of like little tips or tricks you can think of? Obviously, I wrote some other resources people can consider are Recross the Paths with our with Kade here. Seriously though, I can't stress enough how inspiring your show is for the fact that the whole point of your show is to showcase a wide diversity of different styles of cubes and the people who design them. And I think that's the biggest thing is it's so easy to go online and look at lists of cubes and like read the overviews and look at all the details, but like you get to talk to the people and like they get to explain in depth either the gameplay patterns or the experience of the cube and beyond that, just what inspires them. And you just get so much from sitting down and talking to someone about cube that just goes so much further than staring at spreadsheets of as fans like we were talking about earlier. So can't stress enough how cool your show is, Kade. I know I keep going on and on about it, but Recross the Paths it's just cool. It's just so cool, and it's very, very helpful for people who maybe haven't built a cube of their own. I think it's a good starting point.
Well, Leland, that's you are far too kind. I'm glad that I get to continue to do it, and it's as you noted, cube is so big and so varied, and the fact that it's really just a really compelling vehicle to connect with people where they are is really cool. It's just really refreshing that each conversation is so different, just like every cube has its own touch of personality. You get to meet people in all stages and all walks of life. For me, I get to be exposed to all sorts of ideas and opinions and feelings that I don't have to agree with all of it, but I get to share it in a way that's unique, I think. I hope. And, on the practical side, if you want to learn about how somebody else handles a mono red cube, or you want to learn how somebody else approaches desert drafts, or you want to learn about, pick your favorite version or curiosity, that somebody may have explored something in that realm that can inspire you. And how refreshing, how fun it's been that almost every project, somebody's like, I saw this thing that somebody else did, and it got my gears turning. Or like you described, I sat down at my friend's cube, and that got me thinking, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can catch those little kernels and light a fire for somebody else, that's what does it for me.
I love it.
couple other resources I think you made note of that want to point people to one of another Cube podcast if you're into the listening space. Lucky Paper Radio does quite a lot. They also have a collection of articles and resources on everything from starting your first cube, kind of like we've talked about here, to shuffling methods for your cube, to set reviews, to like user surveys. They have a lot of good resources there. Certainly, we've mentioned Cube Cobra as another one. They're also basically there's going to be a whole host of various articles, platforms, things out there to explore. So I encourage the exploration.
Well, I think it would be maybe a good idea to close our chat about Cube with, I guess, just giving a brief overview of our cubes or our cube projects that we have going on currently. So yeah, Kade, you've talked to so many people about all their cubes. And yeah, I realized I don't really know too much about your cubes. Besides, I've seen the lists. They look incredible. I love the names also. So yeah, let's get into Kade's cubes. Yeah, tell me.
No,
about
Leland, that's actually such high praise for me. Not the naming thing, but the fact that you don't know what cubes I have this is a feather in my cap. I think, well, you know how it goes in the podcast space when you're speaking into the void. Sometimes the temptation or the opportunity to share or overshare so much about yourself is there. It's easy to be like, here's my and me and what you've said, but this is my, and it's like, maybe I have some stuff, but I love that here we are somewhere north of 50 episodes in and you don't know what cubes I have. That really makes me happy.
Well, to be fair, I think I immediately, after I started listening to Recross the Paths, I went and followed you. I think the first thing I did was follow you on Cube Cobra. But I think then I've looked through your cubes, but I don't think to your point, you don't really talk about your cubes all that often on your show. So it's just I've got this unique opportunity to have you now you're on the side of the interviewee. Tell me a little bit about you've got 3 cubes that you listed here.
Sure. I've got 3 here, and I'll mention a 4th very quickly, just blur by on the bus window.
Let's do it.
The primary cube that I've curated now for we have to be somewhere north of 6 years, I believe, is the Counters of Monte Cristo. This is a counters focused cube based primarily around +1/+1 counters for creatures and charge counters for artifacts. You won't find other weird counters like poison, -1/-1. You won't find keyword counters. You may find a few oddballs like stun counters, but generally my goal was to have an accessible board state that you can look and know what impacts power and what doesn't. Because counters can naturally be a little finicky, but this is my aim for the cleanest possible version of that. And that's been a really fun one to curate in a kind of a different space from most proliferate type cubes where you're mixing sagas and persist, and this aims to be kind of a down the line counters experience for people who are into such things. Flagons and Dragons is my 4-player bar cube. I loved the bar cube idea. I wanted to be able to carry a to-go box, basically. And I have somehow got a wooden wine box from Dragon Shield. So I carry the cube. I carry the cube in the wine box. And that's one that I've been working on. But just a kind of a quick pickup type Dragons flavored game, kind of themed around the 6-mana 4/4 flyers of the Khans of Tarkir era. That's kind of the speed and space I want. Cast big dragons, do dragon things. The third main one I'll mention is I mentioned 5 Alive earlier, which is a format that's been pioneered by some of my friends in the space, where each player starts at 5 life, and you draft your opening hand out of a pool of cards. The one I have is called 101 Alive, because that's binary for 5 is 101. And so
I see.
It's kind of an artifact or robots themed version of it. So you're trying to do a lot of little finicky artifact things at a low life total with a limited amount of cards. The last one I'll mention at the risk of rambling on, my most recent completed project in paper is called Jazz Waltz, and it's a non-thematic desert cube. So it's not like a thematic creative idea as much as I love desert drafts, which means you don't get to add basic lands to your pool after the draft. all of your lands are drafted in the course of the draft itself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been really a fun project for me to put some of my favorite things into a little more heady environment that for the for the cube sickos out there.
I love it. Yeah, all four are very, very different from one another, and yeah, that just goes to show that you can express all your different personal preferences towards Magic. You don't have to jam them all into one cube and try to make it work. You can just do multiple cubes, make another cube.
That's the running joke. It's like, well, this card doesn't fit here. Time to start a new file.
Yeah, right. I've never heard of Five Alive, so I'm gonna have to at the very least proxy up 101 Alive. Might have to give that a go with some buddies.
I have some other lists I can recommend to you too. It's a really fun way to play between other stuff, right? Like, it's since it's a small package as opposed to even bigger things like a battle box. This is like, let's shuffle up. I can show you the cards, and we're drafting and done in less than 15 minutes.
Yeah, this is the bar cube while you're waiting at the bar with your buddy, and you're ordering the beers while you're waiting for your other buddies to show up for that bar cube.
Bingo. That's honestly, that's the spot. Like, just finding the little window to play.
I love it.
So you have some cubes as well.
Yeah. So my failed cube that I don't even think is properly. It's not anywhere. I think the only thing I could find was a Moxfield list. That's just a bunch of random cards, but it was called Scrimbly Boys Delicatessen. Not exactly sure
That's
where.
Such a good name.
I think I was just in a weird mood when I started this cube, but it was just full of like goofy. Honestly, it was like a lot of like goofy gold cards. Let me see if I just want to pull up a couple examples of just cards I wanted to play in a limited environment that I just never got to. Oh, the one that kind of inspired it all was Fleetfoot Dancer. From Streets in New Capenna. I saw this card and I was like, this card is amazing. I've never played with this card before, so I'm just going to build a cube of a bunch of other 2 and 3 colored gold cards that I've never played in limited that are awesome. So that was kind of the initial...
Customers who enjoyed Mantis Rider also enjoyed Fleetfoot Dancer.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was like that was my first like big thought experiment regarding cube. Then I went on to do, I don't know why, this was just like an aesthetic approach of modern frame white border, and that was the pool of cards that I could use. So I did that. That is also no longer on Cube Cobra. I can't find anything from that. I'll have to go back and revitalize
the records.
Yeah. But the two, I guess technically 3, but the 2 that I'm really focused on right now are the Anhava Inn, which started as a Tubert. It is a bar cube that is Graveyard Matters focused. I was kind of drawn to those sensibilities because I was really curious about bar cube. I thought it was really fascinating to what you were explaining earlier, building an environment that is game piece light, so you don't have all these extra dice. You don't have all these extra tokens. It's literally just whatever's on the card, that's what you're rocking with on the board. But I wanted to kind of, because we're losing out a little bit of complexity by getting rid of those game pieces that are pretty vital to a lot of limited environments, it turns out, I wanted to use other zones. I haven't really delved too far into Exile. I think that might be the next evolution of Anhava Inn, is exploring the Exile zone a bit more. But right now, it is allowing your graveyard to be kind of that added complexity that is lost by not having +1/+1 counters and tokens. So that's been really, really fun to curate. Like I said, I started with 180 Tubert, 180 cards, and it is now officially, as of today, launched on Cube Cobra as a 360 card cube with this ongoing overview that has been, a whole other project onto its own. But I've just had so much. Yeah, it's very exciting. I've been having so much fun bringing this thing to life, and so that's my main cube. And then the one that
And stay tuned because we may get to talk more about that at some point in the near future.
I would love that. I would love that for sure. But yeah, and then the other cube that I don't have it in paper yet. It's probably going to be fairly proxy heavy due to expense. But I'm also building a pre-modern bar cube that will be a two-bert. And I think I'm going to keep this one a two-bert. And that's been really interesting. I think there's so much to explore in the pre-modern space. And by making it bar cube, there are a lot. You'd be surprised by how important tokens are to pre-modern. Just the format pre-modern. You'd like.
I told you I play red white cycling. I know how important tokens are.
Yeah. So that's been. It started as I basically took kind of call back to your point of like using lists as inspiration. I think the top. It was like 5 or 6 pre-modern cube lists on Cube Cobra, combined all of them, and then just started cherry picking away because I really wanted to like take. Because I love pre-modern, but I don't know about creating a limited pre-modern environment. It's just a lot of the lists were taking like the top decks or like favorite decks or popular combos and that type of thing. But wasn't anything very concrete. So I'm trying to, evoke the feel of pre-modern and just kind of old school generally in a 4-player bar cube environment called Hyperion is the cube.
Love it.
Yeah, it's just been a fun project to work on. Little thought experiment, I guess, is a good way of looking at it. And eventually, it'll make its way to paper. But right now, it's $1,000+ in old random cards that I don't know.
Oh no! Pre-modern notoriously not cheap. So there are 2 things that you said there that I think are so valuable. The first one I will note is that proxying is a great way to explore something like Cube because it can be very expensive if you want to get all of the cards in paper. And especially if you're learning or testing, like that's the sort of thing that you want to like that may be worth exploring a way to try it out, to see if you like it. And it lets you do stuff that you would be otherwise prohibited by financially. So I know there's a lot of discourse around that. The general consensus though is that if you're interested in trying it, you should try it. And then if you're excited about it, you can jump in and do more. Also, just the value of lists. Cube Cobra has this cool function that there's just a button on any list that says clone list. You can just click the button and it will be added immediately to your profile. And importantly, it will notify the person that you cloned their cube, which is the biggest badge of honor I think you could receive as a cube designer.
Right.
Somebody's like, I want to riff on Leland's Hyperion cube or whatever. Then bing, he'll get a notification that like Kade has copied your cube, and then you can watch me like watch the changes I make and be like, oh, you added all the things I hated. Well, But it's such a great way that, like what you described, of just adding lists together, taking what somebody else has done and say, how would I do this differently? And then you don't have to do all the legwork on the ground. And hopefully you make them feel better by taking some of their ideas and sharing them.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's what I've got going on. What are your plans for cubes in the future? Do you have any other projects you're working on? And what are some closing thoughts about cube in general?
Well, let's see. I did, as I noted, just finished Jazz Waltz in paper, so that's kind of the culmination of a bigger study. Of trying to see if that was an environment that was possible to create for me in a way that I liked. So there were some edits to make after the inaugural draft. We talked about accepting feedback from people, learning the things that worked and the things that didn't. I also have a project that's been kind of percolating for a number of years now. That I had called Leyline Confluence, but the idea being that it'd be a largely enchantment-heavy cube, some of which to be sleeved in a slightly different inner sleeve, kind of a reflective sleeve inspired by Ryan Sachs's build-around cube, that at the start of your game, you get to pick one of the enchantments from your pool to start on board as a Leyline emblem. So you get a free enchantment each game that's going to impact how you play. But I've wanted to build a cube around that and not just be a module to add in other things. So you would be inclined to draft these weird enchantments. That's on the horizon. And continuing to do Recross the Paths things. I'm going to be at Cube for a Cause here in a short time after recording this, so possibly before it's released, but just getting to actually see some of the humans in person that I've talked to over the internet. It's always exciting to get to go do that.
I love it. All right. We do a thing called Scryfall Random Spirit Creature of the Week. Kade.
Spirit Creature of the Week.
Yeah, I don't... the name might need some workshopping here, but we're too many episodes in to change it, I think.
So we're going to find ourselves a random creature card, yes?
Yep. So whatever the first creature is, you can do that, but you do get one free mulligan. So if you don't like the first one...
what am I doing with the creature card once I have it?
That's your spirit creature, and we're just gonna share them and talk about them and see what see how we feel about them. So if you've got, I'm still looking for mine. So if you wanna,
wow, I got it in one.
All right.
Well, I suppose my spirit creature for this episode is the card River Sneak, originally printed in Ixalan. This is 1 in a blue for a 1/1 Merfolk warrior. It says River Sneak can't be blocked. Whenever another Merfolk enters, that's the old wording. Modern wording says whenever another Merfolk you control enters, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So I actually have things to say about this card because I was playing during this limited environment.
Okay.
Ixalan and then Rivals of Ixalan were the last limited sets before Play Design Team actually existed in Dominaria. So there was like often maligned experiences in Ixalan and Rivals of Ixalan with these tribes, Merfolk being particularly like you made a hexproof Merfolk token, which was particularly good if I remember. I think that's true. Anyway, you made Merfolk tokens. So there was a lot of ways to pump up this River Sneak, and can't be blocked meant you were just doing brutal amounts of damage that your opponent couldn't interact with. So I definitely remember casting, as I resolved this creature many times and tried to make it work. I never wanted to draft pirates. Dinosaurs were fine, but expensive. But the Merfolk, there were a lot of good ones. River Sneak, best friends with things like Tempest Caller. That was like 2 blue for 2/3 that just tapped all your opponent's creatures when it entered. So like you were playing this Merfolk on curve that was crushing your opponent's team and buffing up the River Sneak. So sorry, that was way more than I anticipated having to say about my spirit creature.
I love it. And I love the flavor text of no ripples, no splashes, no warning. And you see there's like some unfortunate soul
legs.
with the legs in the background. The sneak's gonna get him.
It's gonna get got.
I love it. So mine is maybe something I should add to my Hyperion cube. I got Heavy Ballista.
Okay. Yeah.
In particular, I got the 7th edition printing, but it is from the original is from Weatherlight. Heavy Ballista. For 3 and a white, you get a 2/3 human soldier. And you can tap it. This creature deals 2 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. The flavor text reads, soldiers wear down and enemies collapse, but the ballista never tires. Ballista Captain.
That's really good.
Yeah,
I always found these kind of effects can be really polarizing. They're either incredibly good or incredibly not.
Yeah. This feels like it could be okay. I mean, especially if I really stick to the bar cube sensibilities, 2 damage is no joke in pre-modern. This kills a lot of stuff in pre-modern. So
it basically just reads you can't attack for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's important that it's blocking too, right? Like so you're basically chump blocking, or you have to double block a lot of things for one to survive and the other to actually engage. Makes math tough.
Yeah. I like the original Ron Spencer art in Weatherlight, but the 7th edition by Brian Snoddy's, it's just cool. It's just very evocative of like classic fantasy. Someone's attacking the castle. Someone's storming the castle. Just this giant ballista on a wall with a bunch of knights surrounding it. It's very cool.
You know, there's this great Ristic Studies video where he's talking about 7th edition. And with 7th edition, when they were doing another core set, they chose to redo art for the entire set. So you got fresh art for all these cards in 7th edition that nobody recognized because of like reprints of all your favorite cards with unfamiliar art.
Yeah, you sit down to play with them. I don't know what any of these cards are.
That's exactly. It's a great video. If folks are not watching Sam do his awesome video essays, they should be.
All right. Well, are you happy with River Sneak as your spirit creature? You think it'll inspire you in some way in the coming days?
You know, I had the opportunity to record a part of a jazz album once with a friend, and I remember finishing a solo thinking, I'd like to take that again. And I asked if I could, and my friend said, you know, if you take it again, it might be different, but I don't know if it'd be any better. And that's kind of how I feel about River Sneak right now. I make it something different, but
I love it. Who knows? You might find some inspiration from Ixalan in the coming days.
That's right.
Once again, thank you, Kade, so much for joining us. It's been so much fun connecting with you and getting to talk all things related to Cube with you. But yeah, where can people connect with you and find your show?
Well, I need to say first, thank you so much, Leland, for reaching out, for connecting here, and for having me on the program. It is fun to sit in the other seat to get to blab more than I usually do, and I thank you for tolerating so much of that. I'm most active on Discord, more lurking than anything else. My handle is Domri Kade on there, named after a planeswalker that no one will remember. R.I.P. The show, Recross the Paths, is hosted anywhere podcasts are, to my knowledge, so you can find that on your Spotify, Apple iTunes, so I can get you the RSS feed if you have a preferred podcatcher that's not one of those. And we're on YouTube now if you're one of those folks who like to listen to your audio as a video. So trying to make it accessible if folks are interested.
So typically we start our outro with a Food for Thoughtcast question for the next episode. I don't know if there's anything you have on the fly here.
I came up with one, and I have.
All right.
I don't know if you've used this one before, so forgive me if I've overlapped somewhere. My Food for Thoughtcast question for you all to explore this next time is, if you had the ability to cast an instant or sorcery from magic in real life, what spell would you choose to have on hand?
Oh, that is so good. That is so good. Yeah, we haven't explored that before, so yeah, I don't know. Obviously, next week Luke and I will.
Yeah, so you can't answer now.
Can't answer now. I would love to answer now, but Luke and I will ponder this. That might be a good one. Ponder.
Hey,
well, I guess that's
nope, don't answer.
Okay, I'm not answering. But yeah, thank you so much for that question, Kade, and we will answer it in the next episodes. Be sure to listen to the next episode to hear our answers. Also, feel free to connect with us over on X or Instagram at WildDogsPod. If you'd like to sponsor the show, please reach out to us via email at wilddogspodcast@gmail.com. Finally, thanks to Johnny Bartlett for creating the intro and outro music. Until next time, Wild Dogs out.
Bye-bye.
Magic the Gathering. Gathering magic with my friends. Playing cool cards all the time. Tutoring